it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to do a book review for you, and that is A Million Worlds with You by Claudia Gray. This is the third and final book in the Firebird trilogy, Firebird series. And I have already reviewed the first two books in the trilogy, so I will link that for you in the cards as well as down below in the description box. I overall adored this series. It's really unlike anything I've ever personally read because it's a mixture of like sci-fi, parallel dimensional travel. It feels a little bit contemporary, romance, friendship, family, corrupt companies, all of that kind of weaved into this series. I loved it so much. I rated the first book 5 stars, the second book 4 stars, and the third and final book 4.5 stars. So I highly recommend this series if any of those buzzwords sound interesting to you. And yeah, it's really good. I also listened to these on audiobook and read alongside the audiobook, and I really enjoyed the experience. I forget the lady who narrated it, but she did a wonderful job. And since I read them so close together, the first book was actually a reread for me, but I read books 2 and 3 very closely together. I just adored it so much. So I wrote down a couple of notes because I wanted this to be a short and sweet review, but I've kind of already babbled quite a bit. So, like I said, I rated it 4.5 stars. I took off half of a star because of the emotional parts of the story. And this is the only book that I really felt this way about out of the series. But in this book, there are some sad things that happen and, of course, some happy things that happen. Let me give you an example. Let's say that maybe you're not really attached to a character, but then you're in like a TV series and you're watching the TV series and you really don't like this character, but then finally it's getting towards the end of the season and you're really starting to become attached to the character. Like the character has grown so much for you personally and you like adore this character now. But now let's say that he or she has died off, like they're killed or whatever, and it breaks your heart and you're crying and you're sobbing and you're so emotional about it, and you just feel like all of the feels, and you feel like the world is ending, and you either have to stop watching or in this case stop reading, and you're totally emotionally invested in it and you're just a mess. So when something sad happened in this book, there were at least 3 different occasions, maybe it was only 2, but 2 or 3 different occasions that I felt so emotionally drained and just like totally invested in this sad moment that I had to put the book down. I had to stop and take a break. But then what happens is let's say that in the TV show, so the character is murdered, and then you find out the character's really alive, but it's not as well done that they're alive as when they were killed. So you're still reeling from their death, and then you're like, and then instead of the author or the writer or whatever saying like, making you as emotionally happy as they did sad. So I don't know if that example made sense, but in this book there were 2 or 3 specific things that happened that I was super sad about, but then when it was like, oh, but everything's okay, it was just kind of, I didn't feel as emotionally happy as I was with the sad parts. So there wasn't a balance of that. It wasn't like I got really sad, but then I got really happy because, just kidding, my favorite character was alive. Back to the TV show example. So that was really the only thing I took off for. And that was really basically a writing thing. And maybe it was a personal thing. Like maybe it would hit you more both ways. But to me, it just felt the writing was so much stronger for the sad stuff than it was the happy stuff. So took off half a star for that. But the good things, great writing, great pacing. I loved the characters. The different worlds and different dimensions. Well, it is the different dimensions that had the different worlds. It was explained well. they were all so unique and different, and the family kind of changes in the different dimensions too, so you have to get to love the main character but then other versions of the character, and I loved that. Also, the scientific stuff, I don't read a lot of sci-fi, but I never was confused about the technology or the time, or not the time travel, but the parallel dimension travel. I think they explained it really well, and they kind of sprinkled it throughout the series, so you never felt like info dumpy. Now, one thing that was also very strong about this is it did have an epilogue, and I'm so glad that it did, because I was like, no, don't be over. But epilogue, this is probably one of the best epilogues I've ever read ever in my life, and I just thought that it was handled very strong. Like, it was probably one of the strongest epilogues, like I said, I've ever read, just because an epilogue to me should kind of conclude every opening possible, you know, tie up any loose threads, but also let you know like what happens 5 years from now. And that's what this epilogue did. It told the story, like what happened after the story, but it also tied up any loose threads. So I just loved it so much. So like I said, the only thing I took off was the really hard to explain example about the sad emotional parts being more emotional, or more, I don't even know the word I'm trying to use. Probably explaining it horrible, but if you read this series and you know what I'm talking about and you know how to explain it better, let me know down in the comment section. Also, please pick up the series. If you have and you've read it, tell me what you thought down in the comment section. Please let me know if you plan on picking up the series. I will have links to purchase each book off of Amazon. They will be affiliate links. To be accepted into the program, I have to make like my first sale with one of my links within 180 days. So this is my first experience with Amazon affiliate linkage and all of that. Thank you for joining me as always. I know probably not many of you actually watch these reviews, but I do try to keep them spoiler free as always. If you have any questions, let me know. And until next time, see you then. Bye.